Over a single week, pharmacists across 68 pharmacies in the Midland region, this was covering Waikato, Bay of Plenty, Taranaki and more, flagged 1,257 prescription mistakes. Now, these were sent by GPs, specialists, midwives, dentists, and other prescribers. The most common related to inaccurate drug doses, missing details, or patients prescribed inappropriate drugs, which could interfere with other medicines they were taking. Most disturbingly, 26% of the mistakes had a high risk of patient harm if the pharmacist had not intervened. And the major driver for the audit was the tragic death of a 2-month-old baby in Manawatu earlier this year following an overdose after she was allegedly given medication at an adult dosage by a pharmacy. Lanny Wong is a pharmacist and owner of Mangawhai Pharmacy, and it's great to talk to her again. Lanny, good afternoon.
Good, Leah. Nice to talk again.
Lovely to talk again. Very disturbing numbers, and these weren't just minor typos. I mean, 26% of errors were judged as high risk of patient harm. Should the public be worried?
Yeah, I think, Leah, just firstly, I think the technical term here should be issue. So it's not exactly error, but they are issues with the prescription. So so they range from, simple things like the barcode's not scanning, because if we can't download the prescription, because everything's electronic now, we can't dispense it. So that's considered an issue. And obviously with these issues, there's a range of every issue causes delay, put it that way. If you ever wonder why my prescription takes so long to be filled at a pharmacy, that is one of the main things that happen, is that there are issues with the prescription. It can be the prescription's not there, the barcode's not scanning, a completely wrong drug got this.
But I was going to say, but Lanny, having said that, some of the mistakes though were for wrong doses, or wrong quantities.
Absolutely.
Not just missing info, or the barcode won't scan. So who's really responsible here? Is it the GP or whoever wrote the script?
Yeah, ultimately it is the prescriber's responsibility to ensure the prescription is accurate. However, in the prescriber's defense, if you like, once they hit the send button, they also don't know how it's interpreted onto the other end. I think sometimes what the prescribers see in front of them is different from what we see on our end as well. So there's definitely, this study here definitely highlight the electronic issue and how imperfect it is. Like, it's very convenient, but it is still imperfect. And a lot of the time we are the last stop. We are the one that have to report back that, no, this is not good enough to go out to the patient.
So, in the good old days, the doctor would hand over, they'd rip it out of their prescription book and hand it over to you, and would walk it to you. And, it looked like it was written by a chicken on speed. So then they decided these e-prescriptions were better, and then they sent it straight to you. But, as you said, there are some problems here. And are pharmacists now the default safety net?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, at the moment, pharmacists is the default safety net. If we don't raise this issue and feed that back to the prescriber, then it will just fall straight to the patient. So if it was missed, say if I have if I just, have a moment of inattention and I didn't see it, that, something was written incorrectly, then yes, it will go straight out to the patient. We are the last stop, unfortunately. But, we're very good at what we do. Don't get me wrong. A lot of these issues are picked up and fixed. And, I can give an example today. I had a patient who was prescribed gabapentin, which is a nerve nerve blocking medicine to help with pain. This patient's normally on 200 milligram in the morning and 300 milligrams at night. The prescription came through at 500 milligram in the morning and 300 milligrams at night. So, unless I've checked her history and checked what was going on with her overall health, that prescription would have gone out differently. And, and you would hope the patient would notice if things are different. But often, if the pharmacist didn't notice, if, for example, that patient took that prescription somewhere else where the pharmacy didn't have any history of this person, then yes,
Yes.
absolutely, that would have gone out to the patient incorrectly. Yeah.
And when I looked at this, my gosh, pharmacists spend 347 hours fixing mistakes. That's nearly 19 minutes per script. I mean, nobody in any industry, Lanny, has, realistically got the time to fix mistakes. And that's, like you said, when you're now I understand when you go to the pharmacist sometimes and there's 4 or 5 or 6 people waiting and you kind of go, why is it taking so long?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep,
It's
you've
not a good
highlighted that perfectly, Leah. That is exactly right. We are supposed to be practicing at the top of our scope, but the reality is we spend a lot of our time just being an administrative person to trying to sort out all these administrative problems, and that's not a good use of pharmacist time at all. And on top of prescription issue, we are also dealing with stock issues, and we are also having to explain funding to the patient a lot as well, why they have to pay the $5 and things like that. So a lot of what pharmacists do are tied up in admin and very little in the actual, very little of our expertise are actually used on a day-to-day basis because we simply don't have time. And I think the other thing that's important to highlight here is that all these time that we spend resolving this issue are all done based on goodwill. There is no funding for this. We do this for free. We do this out of the goodness of our heart. So if your pharmacists look flustered, frustrated, or a bit annoyed, it's not at the patient. It's usually we're annoyed with the system.
So look, the report says there's no quick fix, Lanny. Better software, obviously, maybe communication, more support for pharmacists. And when I say that, what kind of support would you like to see?
I think, firstly, when pharmacists raise an issue with decision maker and with people that provide these systems, they need to listen. That's the first step. They need to listen. They need to take it seriously, and they need to acknowledge there is a problem, and it needs everyone to come together and fix it. So that will be the first step, because at the moment, we often feedback these issues. There are numbers we can ring to call, and they'll resolve one problem for us, and then that will be it. It doesn't go anywhere after that. And the next script that comes along will have the same problem. It's still the same issue, and there is no wraparound service around how they're going to stop this issue from happening again. So I think that's what pharmacists need. And I think there also needs to be some sort of acknowledgement that we are spending a lot of our time doing this, and it's not sustainable. Not just it's not sustainable, it's actually not safe. We can't. We're struggling with our own workforce issue. There's not enough pharmacists to do all the work, and the pharmacists that are around have to spend extra time doing things that could be resolved with a bit of.
They've actually just said it then. Went back to my first question when I said, should the public be concerned? And you said, if there are moments where maybe it isn't safe, the way the system is working. So what would you say to if I come in and then I give my prescription, I've said it's been sent to you, would you advise that the public also asks questions again, but we don't want to take up too much of your time. But would you say it's a good thing for people to talk to you about what you've given them?
Yeah, I think if anything that looks, if you're not sure about, absolutely ask. Don't just think, if you're unsure, definitely ask. I know this is not very good news, this little paper here, but just keep in mind, millions of prescriptions do get dispensed every day, and it's safe, it's fine, and it is correct. But if anything looks different, anything you're not sure about, absolutely ask. And when the pharmacists tell you, oh, your prescription is going to be a bit longer, let them have that time to sort it out for you. So that will be my advice. But in general, yes, it is still okay to trust the pharmacist. But just keep in mind, sometimes things doesn't go well, and you need to allow the pharmacist time to sort it out for you. And if things doesn't look right, just ask. And sometimes it can be just brand changes. But most of the time, like I would say 100% of my script dispenses will be accurate.
Yeah.
And, and because pharmacists have spent the time, and yes, this paper also highlights this, that we do put in the work to get it right. And this work cannot go unacknowledged. And I think this is the most important thing that needs to come out of this paper is the amount of time spent just to get it right. And that needs to be acknowledged.
Well, of course, and no work. That's not. You're working hard or hardly working. This is too much. When you're putting in 347 hours fixing mistakes that aren't your fault, it's productivity loss.
Yeah,
that you could be doing other things, and I mean, it would frustrate the heck out of me if I did, and like you said, it's not all the time, but it's enough to cause issues. So I get it. Lanny, while I've got you, under a new law passed this week, you'll know pharmacists who own or invest in a pharmacy will be able to become prescribers from February next year. So again, is this a little bit more workload shift? Are pharmacists ready to handle this?
Yeah, no, I think that's actually good news. But yes, the law will change, but it probably wouldn't happen straight away because there are other things that needs to change as well. Because I guess that's the first step. By removing that law, then it will allow us to do it, and then as a profession, we just have to upskill the pharmacists, like for example, do more training, and also define what that means. Like, what does it mean, prescribing? Obviously, we can't do everything, so they need to draw the line somewhere on what we can do. So that will take a bit of time. And I think two topics that we talk about today is kind of interrelated. So as you can see, pharmacists have spent a lot of our time tied up doing administrative thing, trying to fix issue of prescription. That time needs to be freed up so pharmacists can practice at the top of scope as a prescriber. So they're all interrelated. So we can't be a prescriber and
if you're fixing admin mistakes,
we're tied up. Correct. Yeah. So we need to look at the system as a whole. If that is what the decision maker wants, they want to see pharmacists practice at the top of the scope, then the foundation of what community pharmacy is, like dispensing prescription, needs to be resolved or needs to be smoothed out, if you like. They need to make our work easier on one end in order for us to free us up to do other more important work.
Yeah. You mentioned training. So you mean you want to train up to or get support before February so that you can hit the ground running, or can you see this kind of being more later in the year?
Yeah, I think I don't know. It's quite complex. There's a lot of definition that needs to happen. That depends on our regulator. I guess it depends on what they want to draw the line to. For example, you might remember a few years ago, pharmacists were doing minor health conditions, so where people can come to the pharmacy and access certain type of treatment for like scabies, minor sort of childhood pain and fever, and minor sort of skin condition and things like that. So for a little while, there were funding for things like that, and that's the type of thing pharmacists is within pharmacist scope. So that is the type of thing that could probably roll out if we were recognised as a prescriber to prescribe product to treat those conditions. Sorry, it's getting a bit technical here. So so there's a way to to speed up a few things, but that obviously needs some discussion around people that regulate us on what they feel will be right for the public. So there's a balance between risk and benefit, I guess. So and our regulator will have to make that decision on what we should or shouldn't do. So that's the bit that takes a bit of time. So for example, if they want us to start prescribing for, say, blood pressure tablet or something, then then there'll be extra work that needs, extra study that we will have to do. But there, and keep in mind too, Leah, like pharmacists are doing some, work with the reclassification of medicines. For example, you can access morning after pill from the pharmacy. You can access contraceptive pill. You can access antibiotics for UTI, uncomplicated UTI for women. So things like that, pharmacists are already been doing. So if they reclassify, do some regulatory definition around that, then pharmacists can start prescribing for those conditions, and maybe Pharmac might fund that service, Pharmac might fund that medicine and or the
see.
service that we're already doing. Because at the moment we do that, but it's an unfunded service. Like, meaning patients have to pay for it. So only people that can afford it can access it.
Ah, gotcha. Right. So it's really interesting, Lanny, and I really appreciate your time when I catch up with you about what is going on. And some of your fellow pharmacists have been listening, I think, because I've got Leah. I'm a pharmacy technician. It is fantastic that Lanny is voicing these issues. We don't get funding for so much of the admin and querying scripts with doctors.
Yep. No, wonderful. It's a topic that resonates with every single pharmacist and pharmacy technician around the country. It is something that we deal with every time. It's definitely something that we get very frustrated about, mostly because it's unfunded work, and we know, every business owner knows, every minute must count, and this is the type of work that we do for the better of our society.
Benefit of the patients,
benefit of the patient, but we are actually not funded for it, and we lose money every minute we spend.
I get it.
Trying
Absolutely.
to resolve these issues, and it's not sustainable, put it that way, and it's basically why our workforce, our profession's feeling so much pressure.
Lanny, thank you so much. As I said, always great to catch up with you. That is Lanny Wong. She's the owner and pharmacist of Mangawhai Pharmacy. Well, interesting, because someone else has said, Leah, can you please make sure this interview is shared on the app? I'm going to share this with all of my pharmacy co-workers. So this is something you guys who are in this industry are well aware of.